Thank you for being with us. I wanted to speak to you on Friday night when I first saw the imagery that Donald Trump posted of a pickup truck, real pickup truck. People do this, they put this on their trucks. But it's a picture that if you're driving behind the truck is meant to make you, imagine that that Joe Biden is lying in the back of that truck. His eyes are closed. I don't know if he's supposed to be dead or unconscious or what it is. Hands tied behind his back, feet bound. And again, you talk so much about the fact that these people don't have to commit the violence themselves. They just have to put it out there.
Yeah, I was extremely disturbed to see this. And, a third of my book is about coups. And that image in particular, it's very important that it's life-size because it's performing a work of propaganda and imagination that people can actually see that no one is off limits, even a sitting president of the United States. And really, it's showing what would happen in the event of a coup, because in a coup, the sitting, often Democratic leader is overthrown and becomes a hostage if he's not killed or put in jail. So this is highly disturbing, but it's not an isolated incident. Recently, the Kansas GOP had a fundraiser, and donors were invited. This was a reward for donating to assault with sticks, etc., an effigy of Biden. Now, the official party distanced itself, but it still happened and had lots of participants. So we're living through an unprecedented effort to delegitimize the rule of law, our entire democratic system, all our institutions, up to a sitting president of the United States. And violence is being proposed as a valid form of dealing with differences. And there we are in the realm of autocracy.
Let me ask you, I think both share a real strength of feeling in the First Amendment and the preservation of the rights to communicate and the right of the press. How do you square that with the criticism of things that seem to be violent incitement? Most courts of law draw lines at very specific violent incitement. But how do you think about this? Because we want people to be able to express their dissatisfaction with Joe Biden, Donald Trump, or anybody else, you or me. Where's the line?
I think context matters. It also matters where we are as a country. We had January 6th. Talk about delegitimation. This was an attack on our entire system of Congress as it is understood in a democracy. So inciting violence toward individuals, there's a logic to it. And you mentioned before the rash of threats to prosecutors and judges and lawyers. This is what autocrats do. If you look at Turkey today, Erdogan's regime, there's hundreds of lawyers and prosecutors who have been detained or are sitting in jail. These are the people who are always punished and sometimes killed in the history of autocracy, because authoritarianism is a system where you arrange government so that the leader and his cronies and his party cannot be held accountable. So that's what we're seeing here. So we have to evaluate the right to free speech in terms of the stakes of that speech.
So there's two important things. One is the way a government or administrative structure is formed in an authoritarian environment. And the other one is this cult of personality, which is outside of government. And I want you to tell me about the distinction, because you wrote about Trump's personality cult a few weeks ago in your amazing newsletter, Lucid. You said, quote, Trump as a wronged figure is fundamental to the victimhood persona that keeps his supporters tied to him, to the twisting of the January 6th assault on the Capitol into a patriotic and morally righteous act, and to the depiction of the thugs involved in that coup attempt as hostages of a tyrannical regime that Trumpism must vanquish, end quote. So tell me about the connection here, because you're talking about the end result, but it depends on this cult.
Yeah, all of Trumpism has been structured around this leader cult and Trump as a victim of the deep state and all the other entities that we know by now. And so the purpose, ever since fascism, the purpose of these leader cults is also to change the way people think of violence. And so January 6th was a leader cult rescue operation where Trump was in distress. He was this wronged, victim of a stolen election. And he called on his supporters to rescue him. And they did. And violence is the way that you change history. Violence is the way you respond to threats. And thus we get to Biden, a life-size image of Biden, again, not an isolated incident, who has to be disposed of in this violent manner for justice and morality to prevail, and that would be Trump being the righteous leader restored to power.
So now there's another aspect of this that doesn't involve Trump being restored to power or winning the most votes. Tim Snyder was talking about this the other day. There's this idea that he doesn't even really have to win. He just needs to be in the ballpark because he's primed all his supporters for a loss. This whole thing is about what happens if he loses. It's one thing if he wins, if he actually gets more votes than Joe Biden does or more electoral college votes. But actually, it's as much of a problem if he loses by a bit.
It is. And then this is where the violent speech is important, because there is the threat of violence, because we had this, last time, but now several years have passed since January 6th, and more people have been radicalized. And I think it's really important to be speaking out. I am waiting for various authorities to be responding to this, vision of Biden, again, a sitting president of the United States, as a hostage. In other countries, it's very clear what the logic and mechanism is here. So, but the other problem is that Trump has pulled off this unprecedented propaganda victory where his party and tens of millions of Americans are treating him like he's still the president. And he's a kind of president in internal exile. And so there's also that going on, which we've never had anything like this before. So the concept of losing or winning elections when millions of people still think he's the rightful president. See, this is where we're not in the terrain of democracy anymore. The rules have been broken. The whole game is different, and we have to adjust our thinking. And that's why I've been talking about this for years now from the framework of autocracy.
Yeah, and that's the important thing for people to remember, because we have to realize we're in a different thing right now, and simply winning an election does not restore us to our normalcy as a democracy. This is why the work you do is so crucial, and we're so grateful to you. Ruth Ben-Ghiat is a professor of history at NYU, author of the very important Lucid newsletter, and the author of the book Strong Men: From Mussolini to the Present. Hey, everyone. MSNBC has a new and improved app. You'll get real-time alerts and analysis, live blogs, in-depth essays, video highlights, and the best 2024 election coverage. Download the new MSNBC app. Here's how to do it. You tap on the App Store on your phone. You hit search on the bottom right corner. You type in MSNBC. You click on the MSNBC app. You click on Get or the cloud icon and enjoy it.